everyone. I'm Angela Kirkian, Director of Education at PPA. And in this segment of In It Together, we're going to get a chance to chat with Cris and Deanna Duncan. I want to be really honest with you guys. So Cris and I actually recorded a session for you guys. And maybe 30 minutes later, he sent me this amazing video clip of a comedian, Michael Jr. And I immediately responded to him and said, wait, hold on a second. I think we have to re-record this because this message is so powerful and one that I really want to bring to our audience. So would you mind jumping back on with me? So he invited Deanna. Thank you, Deanna, for coming and joining us today. I'm so excited we get to chat a little bit about this this message really that you guys shared with me that just really it was very touching. And I think it's something that will inspire people to think about things a little bit differently, especially in their businesses and the way that they're kind of doing things on a daily basis right now. So thank you guys. Let's start off. I just would love to know, like, how are things in Texas?
Actually, it's not as hot anymore, so that's great.
Yeah, we had a record year of 100+ degree days. And, when it is 110 and 115 outside, just like not a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, Atlanta is warm, but we're not that warm. So we're enjoying this early September weather and getting things done. But yeah, it's not like that. I hear Arizona is really hot too. So we're going to be talking to some people from Arizona here soon, and it's really hot out there too. Tell me, before we jump into this, because I'm so excited to share this, and just for you guys to know, we will put the other recording with Cris and I and that conversation on YouTube, so you can find it there. But before we jump into that, I just would love for people to get a feeling for who you guys are, the kind of work that you do, a little bit about your business, and and just how this time at home, I know you guys are at home because you have a home studio, has been for you guys during, this season of being quarantined.
Well, we're Cris and Deanna Duncan. We're in Lubbock, Texas. It's a community of about 250,000. It's a college town too. We've been in business really since 2002. It's kind of when we officially started. We were doing some stuff before then, and we're primarily family and senior portrait photographers, but also do a lot of commercial work. It's kind of split 60-40. So I guess I shouldn't say primarily, but that's between portraits and commercial work is where we fall. So, and it's the two of us, and this is what we do, and we're kind of all in. So.
And your studio is on your property, is that right?
Kind of. We have two studios. So we have what we call the cottage studio, and we're on 1.3 acres. So we have our house, and then at the rear of the property, we have the 1,800 square foot, we call it the cottage. And that's great because we have landscaping all over the property, so we can do what I call in and out the studio. Nice. Unfortunately, we were limited on how big it could be. So about, was it three or four years ago,
I think, yeah.
We have another studio that's about 1.5 miles from here, and we call that like our playground studio. It's this giant warehouse that has these huge sets that we've built in there. We can do rain stage, we can do smoke, all the things that Cris would despise doing in the studio here, like glitter.
Yeah, if you get glitter in there, you can get the leaf blower and just blow it out the garage door.
Yeah. So we do have, and this is our third generation. I mean, we've had other variations where the studio is attached to the house
or in the
house, or you couldn't fix dinner because you would have the smell and you have a client coming over. So this has been a great setup for us.
That's fantastic.
How is it working? Early on, when we were shut down, we kind of took a sabbatical from the studio for about a week or two, and we just worked on our house. We didn't step foot in the studio, and then it allowed us to walk back into the studio with just refreshed eyes. And then we decided that if you're in a commercial establishment like a mall, every 10 years you have to do a complete gut and overhaul on your studio. So we're like, well, this is the time. And it's been great because we can work again in Texas at a kind of a limited manner. And what we saw was a huge upsurgence in commercial clients because all of the businesses realized they needed to increase their web presence. So tons and tons of headshots, like
Yes,
commercial branding, that has been our mainstay. And then even some of the local areas, because they couldn't fly in camera crews for production, we've learned new skills and have been able to step into some gaps that were created just because you couldn't bring people in.
Wow.
But that's what we've been up to.
That's really good. This whole In It Together series was really designed to help connect photographers to one another and to hear how people are doing across the country, and to encourage one another, right, and inspire each other, and in the ups and in the downs. And so it's really encouraging to hear what you guys have been able to do, but also knowing in my conversations with you guys that you're not just working on your business. You guys did take some downtime to just kind of be in this period of time instead of always feeling like you had to accomplish the very next thing, right? Or else you weren't doing something you were supposed to be doing.
Right. And we say this a lot to each other, and we have it up in our studio, and it's comparisons can rob you of your joy. And when this first kind of got started, and we were being bombarded with lots of different educators, and it was good advice, and they were well-meaning. So I don't anyway mean to disparage that, but it was like, redo your website and create a new marketing plan and rechange your pricing, and we were kind of like, I'm going to paint the house. And so we just. But, and that's not that one is better than the other. We just I joked with Deanna, said, I think we're the only studio in the country that didn't update their website during COVID.
What were you about to say?
But we need to, but we chose to focus on things that had got shoved under the rug more in our personal life with our home and some of the landscaping and some of that, as opposed to stuff that had been on the bottom of the pile in the business.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I don't think there's any one right way to approach this, and I think that's the beauty of hearing from a lot of different people in this series, is just seeing how everyone handles everything differently, right? And we've talked to people who are very, very busy, and we've talked to people who aren't busy at all, and both are okay. Both are okay right now in this moment.
And it's important to know that this affects every community so different. And so it's hard to say, well, what they're doing that in Lubbock, you may not be able to do that in Atlanta,
right?
Somewhere else, so it's.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So that kind of brings me, to the topic that I wanted to chat with you guys today. There was the clip that you shared with me, Cris, was of a comedian. His name is Michael Jr. And the clip is titled, actually, it's
What's Your Question?
What's Your Question? Thank you. I was like, I didn't write down the title because I was just so amazed by the content. So what's your question? And in that, he talks about the difference between your question being, what can I get versus what can I give? And he shares a lot of examples of how this has shown up in his life. And he's a comedian. He's on stage all the time. He talks about the fact that as a comedian, the underlying question that he didn't even know he was asking himself was, how can I get a laugh? How can I get a laugh? I need to get up on stage and I need to get a laugh. And he had a revelation one day before going on stage where it flipped that question. And he was tasked with, what can I give? How can I give an opportunity to someone to laugh? He has got a remarkable story. He's actually provided comedy in places like prisons and for homeless shelters, places that you wouldn't necessarily think of a comedian, being present. And so it's just really such an inspiring conversation, because I think as business owners and as humans, we can learn from that question. Cris, Deanna, I would love to hear, because you guys shared this with me, so I know it meant something to you if you were willing to send it out to me. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna start. I think I'm gonna start because I was the one that found it. So I was actually out here at the studio prepping some cabinets to be repainted, and I just had that on in the background. And like, I think my brush was like mid-air, and I just started bawling at one point in time, because what he did is he phrased everything that we had been thinking in a package. Because I'm gonna be honest, like, we don't run our business the way a lot of other people do. I mean, I tried to have the sales plan that went A, B, C, D, and I just it never felt right to me. And we were in a, some very sweet people invited us over to spend the weekend with them several months ago. And well, I mean, before all this COVID stuff. So actually about a year ago.
In September, yeah.
In September, a year ago.
That's when we're having fun.
It was in the wee hours of the night. And, you know, we were having those master plan discussions of business. And somebody was kind of pushing me on, you know, why are you doing your business? What's your end goal? And at first I gave like the right answers. I was like, oh, I want to create generational wealth. I want to make sure that we have enough because we support all these other groups. And so I want to make sure that they get supported. And so everything kind of was focused on the income that was coming in. And they kept pushing me. They're like, Deanna, you're not speaking truth. And they called me on the floor. And then finally, I think like at 3 a.m., I just started bawling. And I was like, you know, the reason that we do this is because I want to see families strengthened. I want to see people that are broken feel whole. I want to let everybody, when they look at themselves in the mirror, see the amazingness that everyone else sees. And quite honestly, I could really care less about the money. And then I started realizing that so much of our business had been built along those lines. And when he phrased it that way, I realized that was the difference for us. Because so much of what we had been heard is, how can I get clients to do da-da-da-da? How can I get? And instead, when it's, how can I give people an opportunity to fill in the blanks, that was just freedom for us. Because really we realized that the camera for us and the sales room and all that, that's just a tool for us to be in people's lives and to help empower them to be the very best that they can be. And so because of that, I guess we're just really weird, but I don't know. I loved it so much. And I was like, Cris, you've got to hear this. You've got to hear this. And he didn't. And so I made us listen to it in like a group setting.
I'd listen to it.
Okay. And then I hear he's like passing it out to everybody else in the bar.
You know,
but yes. So I was giving him an opportunity to share this message with others.
Yes.
I always love watching dynamics with, you know, teams, husband, wife teams who work together. And now, you know, we do everything together because we are never apart ever. Yeah. Right. Yeah. My husband and I work together too. And it's like, we're always together. You guys are wonderful. I kind of wanted to just be like, drop the mic. There you go. Everything Deanna said, just that's it. That's perfect. Just all of that.
Well, okay. So I want to tell you a tangible example of, like, I know it sounds really silly, but a while back, we also were introduced to giftology. And that's this whole program of really customizing, but it's really not about the gift you're giving to someone. It's about the message that you're attaching with it. Because they're like, you know, it's that not transactional. It's that note that you're writing where you're speaking into that person's life. And, you know, I started noticing that I have a little bit more flexibility with some of my time. And we have a client that's in charge of this really big food program. And she has been texting me for forever, like, hey, Deanna, come and join us. And so one Friday, I'm like, you know what? The greatest gift I can give Crystal is I can go be a part of her team this day. And here I am thinking that it's about going and giving to her. But I go, and it's a food distribution program, and we package up all the stuff. We have 300 cars that come through our line. We just get to encourage people. But here's the crazy thing, and it doesn't matter what spiritual belief you have, if you're universalism, if whatever, there is a concept that when you give, things are returned to you. So I went just planning to just, give on that Wednesday. But what ended up happening was while I was there serving, several people that have been previous clients of ours were there serving as well. And they're like, hey, Deanna, we need to come back. We need to have you do. And I'm like, that was not the purpose at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's that crazy thing that happens when you shift your business from how can I get to how can I give, because people like to be with those that have shared values, and givers love givers. Mm-hmm. And
well, I think it's important too that, if you're listening to this and this is maybe something that's been on your mind or you want to try, it's not a gimmick. It's not.
No, it can't be a gimmick.
It has to be authentic. And that was completely authentic for Deanna. Like, I just want to go and serve. And one thing she told me about this is they were giving people pies, and they had like 3 pies, and she goes, well, can we ask them which kind of pie they want? And they're like, no, that's not what we do. And she's like, well, I'm going to do that. And it was amazing how they were, they were just so excited that they were never given that choice before.
Right. Yeah.
And that was so empowering to them that they actually got to choose. It wasn't just, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. It wasn't that anymore. It's like, here's an opportunity for you to choose which gift you want to receive. And I think that was a powerful part of it. And that was the authentic nature that came out of it too. So.
Yeah, I just love this conversation because it touches on every part of our humanity. It touches on obviously our businesses, but touches on our personal lives. It touches, just how we connect with our friends. It's everything. Like it's so exciting. I think, and Cris, you said this to begin with, so I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but you talked about how, we look outside of our industry for inspiration. And I'm just going to throw that back to you because I want to hear your perspective on that.
Well, I've been doing that for a long time. And I think a lot of it came back from doing commercial work. Is I wanted to understand the industry I was going into to photograph for them the best way, to give them that best opportunity to create something for them. But I think a lot of so I've been doing that, but I've also realized that there's great people outside of our, I want to say, a little box, our industry, that have gone through what, maybe not the pandemic part, but they've gone through business struggles, or they've gone through personal struggles, or they've gone through working with a spouse, or anything that we've faced. We're not the first ones to face it.
Right. And
there's other people that have wisdom and same values as us that we can learn from and be inspired from. And so, and a lot of those are in our industry. Don't get me wrong. I love the giving nature we have with PPA in our industry, but there's people out there in construction and retail and marketing and in web design, whatever it is, or in pastoring or speaking, that they can give that as well. So.
Yeah, I like it. What I appreciate, sitting in my seat as the director of education, I work with a lot of speakers, a lot of people within the industry, and I think those who do it incredibly well, they'll take inspiration from outside of the industry. They look at it through the photographer's filter or through the entrepreneur's filter, and then they bring us like the kind of boil it down for us, to bring a message that says, here's this universal truth, and here's how it'll apply, to you and your business. I think that's what you guys have done, and that's what I love about this discussion is talking about how we turn that around, and how do we, what does that mean for our clients? So are there some things that you guys have done? Listening to Deanna, what I understand is that this has always been your heart and the way that you guys do business, and this message just kind of supported, and you could go, yes, that's it. That's
it. Yeah.
And it kind of gave us the words.
It gave us
to make it, I don't know if tangible is the right word, but it kind of like, how do we describe what we're doing? And that kind of helped us describe what we're doing, I think.
Yeah. What else does that look like? Like, how else does that show up for you guys in your?
Okay, I'm going to throw out like this example because I realized, oh gosh, this was just a couple of days ago. So we have a little group of friends, and they're all photographers, and we were discussing what our next project is. I was like, yeah, I think we're going to do this because we can build this kind of set, and it's going to be appeal to this. And somebody looked at me and she's like, Deanna, do you realize that was just a backhand slap to your own work because you were saying that your current work wasn't? And I was like, no, because if our goal has nothing to do with photography in life. It really doesn't. And we can become very prideful, I think, of this is my work, and if people love my work, they will come to me. And if they don't love my work, I'm not changing who I am for them. I mean, for true artists,
Change. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, for true artists, that's really who they are. But the reality is, I wouldn't really classify us as really true artists. We're just people that we love what we get to do. And that the camera is a way that we can express creativity, but the art that we create doesn't define who we are. And so I was like,
I think what we create defines who our clients are.
Yeah, I like that.
That's the goal. It shouldn't, I'm sorry I interrupted.
You can stop my train of thought.
I know, but every once in a while, a good thought comes to my mind, and I can't. I've got to let
it out.
So sorry, but yeah, I think our work, and I think that's the point of this conversation, is our work was to define who our clients were.
Yeah.
That speaks a narrative into their life, on a daily basis. If it's hopefully hanging on their wall somewhere prominent where there's a daily reminder of that. So sorry.
Well, and if the goal is to give people an opportunity to have a chance to be brought together and then to see that connection displayed on their wall, why would I want to limit the number of people that can experience that? So then I have to be open to changing my language and perhaps changing what I do a little bit to be able to speak their language. And so I realized it wasn't a backhand slap against what we're currently doing. It's that our goal is just to give people an opportunity to celebrate their family. It's to give people an opportunity to, I don't know. I mean, we both come from a counseling background. And so I hate to say that, like, when you come through our whole thing, there's a little bit of, but it usually ends up happening somewhere that there is something happens. And so since we don't have like a sign that hangs out our door that says LLC or something like that.
LLC? You mean
LPC.
LPC.
or PC, or whatever you want to say. Yeah, we do have an LLC. Okay, sorry, break right there. Yes. And since we don't have our counseling sign hanging out our door, we do want to bring as many people through the process as possible. So that way, because if one life is transformed, they're going to turn around and they're going to transform others.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that human connection, that's the heart connection. I've always said I didn't fall in love with photography. I fell in love with people, and photography was just the way I got to connect with people. Sure. And I hear that in like different ways from different, so I'm hearing that from you guys too, that that's really, it's the human nature, right? That's what drives you in your business.
Well, and you kind of mentioned when you were talking about Michael Jr., how, I don't know comedians personally, but I would assume that their goal is, I want to play at this level. I want to be on this stage at this event, and I don't know what that pinnacle for them is. That's probably what they work for. And when he's changed his question, he still got to deliver his gift to his audience, but then he's doing it for an unlikely audience that was probably never, maybe, I can't speak for him, but from listening to this video, it sounded like he was always, I want to be on this platform. And this put me in a platform I never thought I would be at. But that ended up changing those people's lives. And I think what we took from that is, we're always told, get your ideal client. But I think our ideal client is someone that's kind of like us. because you attract who you are. Like attracts like, I think, in the business world. And the people, and so I think when Deanna's great at this, is through a consultation, getting to know them to figure out how we're going to give them this opportunity to do something. Then it doesn't become, money really doesn't become an issue to them. So they may not be what people would call your ideal client in this zip code or at this type of house or whatever. But now it's because they have value, they feel valued. And so now you become valued to them. And so that doesn't become a financial burden or anything. It just becomes, this is what I want this because it speaks value to us. Did I explain that right? You're looking at me like,
yeah. No, I like what you're saying. And I kind of want to go back to something you said earlier, just to touch on it again so that people hear what you're saying. When you said this isn't a gimmick. You know, I feel like in business so often we're looking, and I believe in systems and processes. Don't get me wrong. I believe you've got to have a system and a process because it helps you to be consistent in all of your business, everything, right? All the things. But I feel like this is one of those things that speaks to your nature and to your authenticity and how you show up every day on a daily basis. And so it's not so much about creating a system, right? Because I think that's what Deanna touched on earlier as well, in talking about, you know, here's the things you have to do the things, right? But this is more like a heart. This is more of a mindset. This is a way you approach everything in your life, right? Wouldn't you say?
It's a mindset. And I have a college roommate, and, you know, all these years later, sometimes she calls me and she's like, okay, how can I be more positive today? and I, you know, and for me, I'm like, oh, and then I was like, no. I had to train myself to be this way. And so the first thing I did is when I woke up each morning, it would start with just one thing. I would write one thing I was thankful for. And then I would write one thing I could do for someone else that day. Because I used to be super, super selfish. Like, I was the most selfish, vain, arrogant person you could ever remember. I mean, ever imagine.
That must have been before I met you.
I was thinking, I didn't know that.
No, you were one of my inspirations. But there was this when I was 16, there was this lady that I worked with. And I was like, I want to be her when I grow up. Because everyone around her, she made people feel good. She affirmed them. She was always smiling. And one day I asked her, I said, how can you be happy all the time? And she's like, Deanna, it is a choice. Yep. Because there were some yucky, cruddy things that happened in her life. But she's like, Deanna, I have to train. And then we can dive into brain science here. And I love to talk about that, about how we actually have to retrain the connections and the synapses in our brain and recreate the myelin and all of that. But when I say that joy and serving others and happiness is a choice, it completely is. And it's something that we literally have to exercise our brain. And then it's just kind of like, you know, if you've ever became an exercise nut, after you exercise that bicep enough, like, it just automatically does stuff without you thinking of it. And that's kind of with this. If you know, if you're listening to some of this and you're like, that's so not me, this is not my attitude at all, but I kind of like that idea. If you try to start doing things, it will seem very inauthentic. It will be like a coat that you're wearing and you're like, this is not my skin, this is itchy, it's yucky. But if every day, in fact, Chris doesn't know this, but I'm about to put a little sign on our dresser, and then another sign on our mirror that says, what have I done today, or what am I going to do today to make it better than yesterday? And then I'm going to put another one, what can I do today to make so-and-so better than they were yesterday? And if you have, I mean, like I said, it's,
there we go.
Well, it's for 30 minutes.
You're the national anthem.
Yeah, so it literally is an activity that you have to start doing to train yourself to look for ways to serve others and to move that attention off of yourself. And for my friend that calls me and she's like, okay, Deanna, what do I need to do? I always tell her the first thing is, I was like, so how did you serve someone today?
There you go. I love that.
And she's like, well, and I was like, no, not like, did I take, I was like, how did you really serve someone today? And at this point in time, there are more needs than you can ever imagine. CASA right now has more cases than they've ever had in their history. Child abuse really is kind of off the charts right now. Hunger is a real issue. And so you can call your local volunteer center, because there actually are those. You can call your Chamber of Commerce and find a group and go and, like, just, even if it's just an hour a week, go and physically do something for someone else, and it will help change your world.
Completely changes your mindset and your perspective, for sure. And I'll just be I guess, it's not always easy to wake up with the, sometimes you just want to stay in bed completely, you're just like, oh, this is, and it's some, I guess, going back to exercising example, after first day you exercise, you're really sore. It's really hard the next day or the next couple days to do that again, because your body just aches. And so sometimes there are some sore muscles, to continue that analogy, to do that. So it does become a choice. And I'm a firm believer in the laws of nature, and you reap what you sow. And I think this is just, part of this is reaping what you sow too.
Yeah, they say that you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So we all want to be your friends.
No, I want to be your friend, Angela, because you're like the greatest encourager. I was like, we're always like, oh, we get to see Angela because she has the biggest smile.
I've never seen you without a smile. Never. So. It's practice. The scary
part is that I've had these teeth since I was 5. I know. I'm just saying. Scary, frightening.
Sweaty.
You guys are great. Thank you for doing a second call with me and talking about this, because I do think it's such a it's just one of those things for us to consider and spend a little bit of time with, right? So if you guys have a few minutes, just think. I love how you wrap this up, Deanna. I love the idea that you can ask yourself that question, of how can I serve others today? And what am I grateful for? I think those are good takeaways for our sweet audience today. I just appreciate you both so much for all you do. And thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, guys, if you want to see more of Cris and Deanna, they do have some fantastic educational videos on ppa.com. So you can go to ppa.com/education and find them there as well. All right, guys, thanks so much.
Bye, Angela.
Bye.